It's the after.
We don't care, we're about to swear on the air. It's the after the show, so tune in if you dare. KVJ, get your skate every single day. It's uncensored. We can say what we want to say.
Hello and welcome to the KVJ After the Show podcast. Welcome to your Tuesday. Virginia's just now feeling normal. Does take a little while to brush off a good drunk night these
It does.
days. Yeah.
Oof. Harder and harder with every passing year.
Yes.
But it still doesn't stop me from being a damn pirate.
That's right. She's still going after it. Good for
Arr.
you. You're not a quitter, Virginia. Not a quitter.
Never.
Thanks for all the emails rolling in, people checking the show, and also people getting back to us. They were there on Saturday night at the Palm Beach Kennel Club. Lynn, just wanted to thank you guys for a great time on Saturday. My cheeks still hurt from laughing.
Oh, good.
I can't wait for the next one. Been a listener for 20 plus years, and I'll continue to support you guys as long as you're putting out content. You are all truly so kind to your fans, and it warms my heart. My best friend and I were almost at the back of the line on Saturday for pictures at the end of the night, and it seemed to go on forever, but I watched as each person or group came up to have their moment with you, and you all were very excited to meet them as they were to meet you, and it says a lot for the kind people that you all are, and why you have listeners that are going to support you for many years to come. So I know you must have been tired and some more tipsy than others.
I resemble that remark.
But you gave us your all, and it didn't go unnoticed. So thank you. Thank you very much. It's very nice. We loved it.
It's a very kind email.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Caitlin, who drove all the way from Charlotte, was just here with her adorable son. I just apologized to
Caleb.
her because I gave Caitlin like a 9-minute hug.
You did. You
On
hugged
Saturday.
me. You hugged me during the podcast too, and it was really awkward because you thought I was mad at you, and I swear to you on everything, I was not at all mad at you. And you just looked at me all of a sudden. I couldn't understand what you were saying. You just looked at me. Don't be mad at me. Don't be mad at me. I go, what? I go, I'm not mad at you. And then you just looked at me and gave me the most awkward hug ever. I'm going, dog, I'm trying to perform over here. What the fuck you on?
It's huggy time.
Yeah. Huggy bear over here.
I was hugging everybody.
Yeah.
You on ecstasy?
I swear I wasn't. I swear.
I don't really think you were on ecstasy.
I was just drinking. That's it. I don't know. I drank a little too much.
Josie said, I've been a listener since Todd, and my kids grew up listening to you ever since elementary school, and they even knew the lyrics to a lot of your theme songs. And with all that, I never had attended one of your events. I was just too shy to go. But my son and I went to Saturday's ATS podcast. We had such a great time. We sat with strangers, and it wasn't awkward. Everybody was so nice. We laughed so much. The only downside was it ended so early.
Aww.
And there was no after party. WTF, I'm a Mexicana, and I can party to the wee hours of the morning. I just wanted to go out and dance somewhere, so I took my drunk ass home. Yeah, we had a little bit of an after party the last time, probably because my daughter Caitlin got her mama out, so that's probably why that happened. I hope that my daughter will be at the next one, so maybe we can get the queen to stay a little bit later. But yeah, Virginia probably shouldn't have done an after party either.
No.
So, yeah.
I'm going to have to, make some adjustments.
Yeah.
I wanted to go out. I was tired, man. I know that sounds
Yeah.
like such a pussy excuse.
Yeah.
You probably didn't want to go out with me because then you would have been hugged more.
I made sure I did not. My plan was to get you out of there and then get the fuck out with Denny's because it was just a long day. But you were a main concern. You really were, though, for me. I saw it. I saw like a quarterback on a field. I go, oh, shit, we got to throw an audible.
Yeah. Time to readjust. Yeah. The defense is throwing something different at us. Look out. This is going to get crazy. Michael had sent an email here about Elon Musk and Twitter. And it is kind of crazy, everything that's going on. Every day there seems to be a new story about what's going on with it. He said, I've heard Kev mention his use of Twitter and his comments and thoughts on all the changes that have been happening. And another day, another change. He said this is actually the start of Elon Musk's long-term goals for developing an everything app. And even before buying Twitter, he had thought about describing it as Twitter plus Substack and YouTube, PayPal, Amazon, TikTok, WeChat, Baidu, all that, being a part of this new universe titled X. And he believes it's going to be $1 trillion company. Apps like this, specifically WeChat, are popular in places like China, where it's part of the fabric of our day-to-day lives. So Michael's hitting us up from China, I believe. He wants people to view it more as a financial platform and says it will help anyone profit off content. He also says it's going to transform journalism by offering an alternate to subscription models where people can just make easy payments for whatever strikes their fancy. He's also invested heavily in AI and was one of the founders of ChatGPT and plans to use this for the X universe. In summary, he's seeking to replace the internet. Well, fascinating stuff, and honestly, don't take my little pea brain to question his. I'm just, as my pea brain tries to absorb what he's doing and his implemental changes right now to Twitter, I am curious as to what is going on. It's a lot of changes, and so far, I wouldn't necessarily say that I've enjoyed any of them to this point. I did see, and that was the big debut this week, was he had put out this X is the new symbol. It's a Unicode character, and monotype font is what it says. Now, I guess if you're smart like Michael, who just sent this email, you probably know all about that. It's considered to be a mathematical double-struck capital X, and it was added to the Unicode in March of 2001. So it's Brainiac-type stuff that would identify with this. But there's also another Brainiac out there that identified this. You know who that person might be? Mark Zuckerberg, and it looks like he already has the trademark on this X logo that Elon Musk is now slapping on Twitter. They expect a massive lawsuit to be coming Elon Musk's way to abandon use of the X that he just added to Twitter.
Settle it in the ring.
It would be another thing to fight about, right? Yeah, the winner takes the trademark.
But do hardcore style, bare knuckles.
He didn't do research to make sure nobody had the trademark on his double fancy X?
I just don't understand. I don't know. This is what I just don't understand. I understand I have a pea brain. I get that I don't have the capacity to process to the level of Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, two of the brightest men on our planet. So I just sit here saying at this point, dumb Kev doesn't quite understand what you're trying to do with all this. So I know I enjoy getting my news and sports off of your app. I've enjoyed it to this point, but it's kind of crazy. And it seems like they're battling back and forth because Michael had talked about this where you would be able to then create content that they would pay for. And oddly enough, I just got something from Meta, which is Zuckerberg, your Instagram and your Facebook, about us becoming a paid contributor.
How much they gonna pay?
I don't know. I'm like, I don't need that.
A nickel a
no,
post?
Exactly. I deleted it because I had even just read this last week. There was somebody else that was kind of ragging. Maybe it was on Twitter or somebody was ragging on some platform where they're supposed to be a paid content provider. And they're like, I haven't made dick off of it. And they were somebody that would have a pretty good platform. I can't remember who it was. It escapes me at the moment because there's so much news about these social platforms going around. I can't retain all of it. But then the other thing I saw is now TikTok has introduced a new feature that's going to let users make text posts. So TikTok is now trying to step in the lane that Zuckerberg did with Threads that didn't seem to work. And so now they're going to try something as well. Does that take off, or are people just so used to TikTok for what it is that they're not going to just start throwing up text posts?
That's just weird if you're changing what you're famous for.
I agree. It's kind of like McDonald's adding a ribeye steak to the menu. And you're kind of like,
what? That's not what I come here for.
Something that works, keep it.
Yeah, and you know, I almost wonder is I see what these brainiacs are doing, and they're all trying to position themselves as the global leader, but they're dealing with a lot of dumb people, i.e. me. And so I just wonder if all of their smartness can't relate to the dumbness of what humanity truly is, and they're confusing the masses, at least me.
That happens too. If you're too smart, you're losing the fucking room over here.
Yeah, exactly.
They say if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Oh.
Don't worry.
I don't know what that feels like.
Don't worry. You can stay seated.
You too, cowboy. Cool.
Cowboy, I don't hate it. I don't hate that name. I don't hate Cowboy Cool.
Yeah, Michigan Mike says, just come on over to the Liberated side. I haven't had social media in 3 years. It's such a relief. And I don't argue with you, but I do want, hey, if there was another thing, I like news and sports, and I like to read commentary about it.
And we also need it to promote our KVJ stuff. Like, we couldn't do what we do in this world without it. It's great promotion
It is.
for this radio show.
You have to have it if you do what we're doing. In fact, you have to have it in a lot of businesses these days.
You do.
Now, with that said, if I was not in this business and I did not have to be a part of social media, I would say goodbye to it and shut the door. I fucking hate it. I really do. For the bad reasons. I think sometimes the bad reasons can outshine the good reasons. It's like if you have a party of 50 people and 2 guys come in and start pissing all over your cake, you're kind of like those 2 guys kind of fucked up the party a little bit.
You're right. There's a lot of people pissing on you on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
It's just, I personally seen it change society a little bit. We're pissy, and I think a lot has to do with social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. So, it'll be interesting to see. It seems like every single platform, in fact, every platform is in flux. And I guess you have to be to always adapt and change with what people are doing. But when was the last time you really saw TikTok was the big splash that had happened years ago? But when was the last time any of these platforms have made any kind of adjustment? It radically changed the platform and you loved it a lot more. I can't really right now think of many.
Usually when they change, it confuses their users. And they're changing to something that they're not famous for. And you're like, wait, what? It's not why I come to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Got a message on the chat saying, Kev, just find a couple voices you trust and follow their newsletters on Substack. I'll figure out what that's all about.
Substack? What's that?
Exactly. Yeah,
Is it a new one?
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on all of it and checking it all out and see where it all goes. I hope that Elon Musk doesn't completely tank Twitter as it is, because I understand it right now and I know how to use it and I like it. So.
The latest one that's coming out as well is Mind Control. It's a new social media.
Is it?
We're like, wait, what? Now I got to be on mind control?
I mean, that's a terrible name for launching something.
Their agenda is certainly clear.
Yeah.
So they want to let you know up front.
Just so you know. Some interesting things, and I'm sure this is, this has already been a fight on social media. Now, look, I'm intrigued by some of the conspiracy theories that are out there, and I look at them, but I think, majority of them are completely fanciful and kind of laugh and don't put too much into it. But did you guys hear the story? There's the singer Tori Kelly.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, she's in the hospital being treated for blood clots. She collapsed Sunday night during dinner with friends. And I don't know if I've just been hanging on too many conspiracy theory sites, but before the pandemic, do you guys remember so many people passing out and so many stories of blood clots and strokes?
Well, I would say this. You may not have heard about those stories because they may be more in your face now.
Yeah. That's
because
what I'm
of
wondering.
The pandemic.
This is only a question about my perception. Is it because they're thrusting them in my face that I am noticing these, or are there more today than there were? And would they ever be able to put any kind of correlation? Because I know a lot of conspiracy theorists are trying to put it was a COVID vaccine that is going with this. But yeah, I would just like to see if there's a source that doesn't have an agenda based. Is it my perception that there's more because I'm seeing it more often? How many people are getting blood clots and strokes at a younger age before there was such a thing as the COVID vaccine?
Yeah, you'd have to take all kind of research on that because it is in your face now after the fact. And I don't have an answer on either way, but that's what someone's going to say.
Yeah.
Go, well, what about the stuff that was happening before COVID? Was it prevalent before that? Those things take research.
And I started doing just a quick dive on it, and Scratch Addict already talked about this, and they'd say Chris Bosch was really the first big blood clot story, and that's pre-pandemic. So that was the first thing I saw, and I'm like, yeah, well, that would be your first argument that, yeah, this is something that was happening before it. But it would be interesting to have, for me, just even as a segment, and to know how many younger people had blood clots and strokes before the COVID vaccine, and then how many prevalent names has it been since? It is somebody just trying to create an agenda-based story
I'll know.
about it.
I'm gonna go online and ask some COVID questions and see what the good people think about COVID
Yeah.
and vaccines.
Hey guys, what do you think about that coronavirus vaccination?
And then after we tackle this, gun control.
Always gets great numbers.
It does get
Always gets great
look,
numbers.
It gets great numbers.
Yeah.
You can feel the anger though.
Every single time. Great numbers.
Myocarditis. That's the one that I hear a lot.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about how there's so many more people with myocarditis.
Right.
Than
That was
before.
the thing. That was the thing.
Is that real?
I had heard about that before the pandemic, though, and that's the one I don't. To me, I haven't really seen an uptick of that. I don't know. I know people try to say that there is, but I'd heard of that before the pandemic. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, hopefully one day they'll get all this sorted out. I assume they will. That's not going to be agenda-based and there will be a truth stamped to the statement. I hope.
Kevin.
I don't know. I'm hopeful that, one day with time and perspective that we'll be able to pull out that. Be like, gosh, remember all the stories of that? It does seem like with time you do get some clarity.
I
Sometimes.
hope, but I hope it happens in our lifetime, and we don't have to wait till all the people that are twisting the facts die before the truth comes out.
Seems like about the only thing we haven't gotten the clarity on is the JFK assassination story, and still waiting on UFOs.
Still with that balloon too that was flying around. Remember that? I'm just kidding.
Oh, the spy. No, I think we got clarity on
I
that.
know. I'm just joking.
Yeah, that one worked out.
UFOs. I think we'll have answers in a canon in a Rocco lifetime.
Yeah.
I'm very UFO hopeful. I clearly have an alien UFO agenda. I want this to happen.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a thing that is very possible of happening and probable of happening.
Oh, no doubt.
It would just be cool to finally get an answer, know what else is out there. And
Yeah.
maybe they have a different perspective of things like death or
Yeah.
different dimensions. I know I sound fucking crazy, but
That's not. I mean, it's going before Congress again this week, talking about UFOs, people who've seen them, credible people testifying as to what they saw. A lot of them are military pilots who witnessed them firsthand. Now, again, you're just hearing people's stories, and it feels like, okay, maybe some credibility is added to this, but there's still no evidence or proof that gets you anywhere.
much like electricity, and I know I've said this before, I just feel like there's things we as humans have not tapped into that could lead into other answers. Before electricity happened, people think you're crazy that electricity, what are you talking about? It was there. We just harnessed into it. We found a way to tap into it.
Yeah.
I feel that way possibly about dreams, death.
Yeah.
I don't know. But would you want to know those answers? I think the smarter we get as a species, we could probably handle those kind of answers and questions.
They had an F-18 pilot I saw that was talking about this, and I think he might be testifying before Congress. He was talking about how he was flying, and they observed a tick-tick shaped object that was like right above the water, and they were talking about the maneuvers and the speeds that they saw this thing did and the propulsion, saying it was impossible what it was doing. So I think that's one of the people that's going to be talking to him.
The crazy thing too is the stories about people seeing creatures, things that are not human. That's what's weird.
So if you're a person that had a credible job, like you're an F-18 fighter pilot, and credibility's big for you, and they don't want to hand over this very expensive jet to somebody that might be a wackadoodle, do you go back and tell people what you saw, or you just be like, all right, I better just shut my mouth here. This is my career.
They wouldn't let A, if you were, you'd get shamed, and then B, if you would be open and honest, they'd tell you to shut the fuck up. You never saw shit. So it was either being shamed or being silenced, and that was a big thing for these military people. Because you're right, they're if you're flying planes up there, you're taking shit seriously. You're not joking around.
Right.
We're talking about military clearance and secret clearance and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think there was a lot of fear tactics that would scare people into being silent.
Because what do you personally gain from that? Honestly, it's just a lot easier to
I think
shut
you
up.
hurt yourself more than you gain.
Back then, yes.
Especially back then, because everybody would be mad at you. Your bosses are mad at you. They're like, shut the fuck up.
Well, back then, you're not getting paid for these crazy interviews. You're not having a TikTok channel. Now you'd have more incentive to lie. Back then, when people tell the truth about that, yeah, I don't think they would lie.
Yeah. Saw another interesting story. They say the FBI now acknowledges that it's investigating an apparent attempt to hijack a 5th flight on 9/11.
Whoa.
And 12 of the 19 hijackers who commandeered the other planes lived or had connections here in Palm Beach County. So yeah, it's just when you look back on that day, just what was going on with it here in South Florida.
There was another plane that they almost got.
Yeah, a 5th flight. So who knows what it could have been? Because, keep in mind, they crashed the one. The other one was supposed to hit the Pentagon but didn't do a ton of damage. I mean, we're 22 years later, and they're still looking as to how bad. So, half of it was the mission was successful, half of it failed. So, but imagine how big it could have been. And remember that day you were sitting there waiting for what is next.
Yeah.
And I think that the terrorists, as they're sitting there watching this unfold, they're also saying, okay, what's next?
Are we going to pull this thing off?
We know we got more coming at you. And just 22 years later, they're still working on this and trying to piece together everything that was supposed to happen on that day.
Well, the people on the plane started realizing what was going on. And then that's why they bum rushed those guys on the one that crashed in Philadelphia, in Pittsburgh or whatever.
Yep.
They
Absolutely.
bum rushed him. Good for them, man. Talk about the balls.
Yeah.
They said, not today.
Yeah. Of 19 of the Al-Qaeda jihadists that day, 15 were citizens of Saudi Arabia. So
It was crazy. It seems like if you lived in South Florida, everyone had a story about, oh my gosh, because I used to work at a place that was right next to. I'd walk by the building where they were staying at every single day during the summertime.
I used to
Yeah.
see him. He would come and get coffee.
There was
Jihad Todd.
There was always a story like that, but I really did. We'd walk by the baseball camp that I worked at. We'd walk by their apartment every single day, which is
Dang.
crazy during that year too. So
Yeah.
they're walking by. It's just crazy to think about.
Training
You
at
were
the
that
Lantana.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for people who don't know, they're training at the Lantana Airport
Yeah.
right here in South Florida. So,
Dang.
yeah, pretty crazy.
How bad do you feel if you're just one of the flight instructors and those guys were your students?
I think
You've got to be just like, what the fuck?
the human side of you feels bad, but you didn't know.
Of
So you have to,
course.
you have to give
Yeah.
yourself a little bit of a break too.
Yeah.
Of course.
No one should carry that.
But it's still a weird thing that you were a part of it in that level.
Yeah. Lori had said, over the weekend, I heard an interview with actor Paul Giamatti, who's on Billions on Showtime, did Sideways, so many other movies, and his interest in UFOs, paranormal ghosts, and Bigfoot. I immediately thought of Jaybird. I wonder if he was aware of Paul Giamatti's interest in this, and I started listening to the podcast called Chinwag. He's got some really interesting guests and content on those topics, so maybe something to check out. Chinwag.
I love it.
Paul Giamatti.
didn't know that.
He seems like a smart dude. He plays a lot of smart roles now.
Wouldn't that be crazy if we find out all of it's real? Bigfoot.
Be insane, yeah.
Unicorns, all of it was
Aliens.
werewolves, all of it had some truth to it at some point. Wouldn't that fucking blow your mind?
The Loch Ness Monster.
All of it, Virginia.
Yeah, all of it, baby.
You would be like, I told you so.
You fucker.
I fucking told you
I swear, I told you. I don't want it all to be real.
so. That might kill you.
That's too much. You can't have
You
it
might
all.
have one of them blood clots and just die.
Well, even if dragons became a thing, if 200 dragons were released into to the world, flying around, that changes the world.
Oh, definitely.
I think so, yeah. Steph said, I saw this on YouTube News. I thought Jaybird would be interested. They solved a 47-year-old cold case. There's an 83-year-old retired pastor that was charged with murdering an 8-year-old girl back in 1975. And I bet this guy was probably thinking, hey, I'm 83, I'm going to die with this and not get caught. And finally, justice for Gretchen Harrington came about, but sad that it took so long. Yeah, pretty crazy. I think it was a church camp she was walking to, and he was one of the pastors there. And
There are some fucked up stories from the 70s, y'all.
There are some fucked up stories from church.
Yes.
yeah.
It's very sad, but a lot of these perverts gravitate towards a religious environment because they know there's going to be a lot of access to kids.
Church pervert, church pervert.
Church pervert.
Church pervert.
Well, and I think a lot of them, too, there was a time and a place, and I'm glad that we're not there anymore, where if you just cloaked yourself in the name of God and Jesus, that nobody would really question you.
You're right.
And I'll tell you now, honestly, I know my church, man, they do some serious background checks, and they don't mess around. There's any sidestepping, and they're trying very careful to maintain a good reputation, and it's tough for them because there's a lot of squirrely people. I don't know why, man, but church attracts a lot of really messed up individuals.
But you're right, though, when it comes to just the mentality back in the day where that guy would never have done that.
Yeah.
He goes
He's a
to church.
Right.
Or just he goes to church.
Right, right.
Motherfucker, what?
And now you got to realize it really is the opposite because it does. Church attracts a lot of broken people that at first they may have good intentions, but they get in there and they get comfortable and their evil ways take over. And they're like, I got a nice little cloak on here. You know, it's almost like I'm invisible.
They can act like, I'm such a good person. I care
Right.
about the Lord.
Yeah.
And then everybody's defenses around them go down, and then that's when they strike.
Well, you have people, too, that are vulnerable when you're talking about church and your soul and spirit and your life and all that. And if you're down and out, too, people can prey on that.
Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely, they do. And that's why, unfortunately, so many awful things do wind up happening in the church. I know that the good ones try to root it out, but it's very difficult, man.
Very.
There's a lot of evil hanging out in churches.
I think about some of the churches that we went to. We went to a few. There was some weird
A lot of
shit.
screwball
By
churches,
the way,
yeah.
this is not an attack on church. I'm saying specific churches had some weird fucking people in my childhood.
It's legit. It's a real problem because, I mean, really, churches should be the backbones of society. They should be, taking care of the poor and the needy and filling a lot of those things and, picking up the ones who have fallen and no one else is there to get them. I mean, that really is the role of the church, and that is what should happen. But
the guy that made the lemonade at the one church, it was so good, but he was so creepy and it was so uncomfortable. You get the lemonade and it would taste great.
Well, they know the better it tastes, the
was-
more little girls are going to come over.
It's an uncomfortable. It's like an uncomfortable 5-minute thing. You have to get with this guy. The lemonade was so good, though, Virginia.
Yeah.
I mean, 15 out of 10.
I wish we knew then what we know now. It's like, how did we give so many people in the church a pass just because they were affiliated with the church?
Yeah, hopefully
it's
now,
just-
I think the churches that have it together hopefully are screening better, and they're really keeping an eye on the peoples in leadership. I know the church I go to is very, I've talked to them extensively about what they do, and they're really keeping an eye on everybody. They've let many people go that started to step askew, and they said, we just can't trust it, man. You got to be to a different level. But it is sad because, somebody said, I gone to a church and pastor was picking up prostitutes. Crystal said that, and others was arrested for child porn. That was the end for me. And it's terrible that humans are ruining the connection you should be having to doing good. And it's too bad because humans ruin religion and faith
Everything,
and all that stuff.
pretty
And
much
everything.
everything, yeah.
They do. Yeah. So, hopefully, we can get to a place where you can separate that and do be careful. There are a lot of churches that are not good out there doing it.
Just because it's a church doesn't mean that you don't have
Absolutely.
creepers hiding in plain sight.
Yep. Keep your eyes open.
9 out of 10 creepers love to go to the church to creep.
9 out of 10. It's
Probably more, Kev.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Probably not wrong on that, actually, unfortunately.
They know because they know they can do the cloak of, we're all here for the same reason. We love Jesus.
I hate to say it. I think creepy is in every avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of creepy everywhere.
Well,
There is,
think
but
about
it-
any profession. Teaching. There's creepy in teaching. There's
There is,
creepy in
no
police
doubt.
work.
Well, because you look at that, and I can tell you, I know the school my wife used to work at and my twins attended, they had an incident with a creeper that was doing things they should not have been doing with children. And so...
There's some creepy police stories.
You can't trust anybody. Church, school,
It's
nothing.
I think that's too too harsh. I think you can trust people. I just think you got to be, because I don't want to be a
your eyes
person
open, yeah.
that can't trust people. Because I make jokes. I do have hope for humans. I do, but you got to be careful. You got to keep your guard
Don't
up.
have blind trust for anybody, anyone.
But you also can't, not trust anybody, because I really believe we do need each other as a species.
Stay informed, ask questions, be real communicative.
If something starts feeling weird, it likely is. So just keep your eyes open, and you can walk into certain places, and thankfully with my church, I feel safe. I feel like they're on it. I don't get those kind of like little tingly spider senses that there's just something a little bit whacked out going on here. But there's other places I have gone in, and I got weird vibes from it. There probably was something weird going on.
Season 4 Cobra Kai kind of taught us all something. It's all about balance, guys. Always has.
Okay. That's good.
That was a sweet Cobra Kai jacket you had on Saturday.
I appreciate that. I love it.
How much that thing set you back?
None ya business.
Sweet.
Another story that I know people are fascinated with is the Gilgo Beach murders that's going on there. The serial killer and this Rex Heuermann, as they're kind of going through his place right now. The soundproof room wasn't true, but the vault was. So they're trying to see if anything weird went on there. But there's an article in the Independent that was talking a bit about it. They've had their eyes on this dude, like, I don't know, for a while. But I guess when you read it, you're kind of wondering, okay, do they actually have really good evidence on this guy? He is right now charged with 3 of the murders. They believe he might be at least responsible for a 4th. And I was reading somebody's commentary on it. They said, honestly, the shreds of evidence they have against this guy, kind of weak when you look at him individually. A stained shirt, Playboy magazines, a child-sized doll, rope, and a vault. It's all that stuff that, when you start adding up together. We talked about murder kits and whatnot. But they're saying, okay, standing alone, do they really have enough, or are they just kind of going by the playbill of what a serial killer would have?
The cops don't have to release all the information, do they? They may have other stuff that we don't know about.
You don't know everything they got.
Everyone
and
wants
they're still searching for stuff, too. They're looking for more evidence,
They hold back details because when he finally confesses, there'll be stuff that only the murderer knows.
I know.
And they hold back details from the public because they want to be able to ensure that when Rex gives them the details, that it's the real details.
I know that people that do murder podcasts, they don't think the police are working fast enough, but they do have to, because you are right. They're looking for other stuff that might be connected to other cases. They can't show everything they got, even though we want it now.
Yeah.
Put it on my murder podcast today.
Please let me do a 2-hour podcast about opinions about a murder case that we're going to get answers about in a year anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know.
I think you're going to find a lot more victims with this cat. And that's why they're digging up his backyard. And that's why they're talking about, oh, he had a soundproof secret basement. Like, what?
Yeah, but and what I'm hearing right now about the story is this guy, he had he has the appearance, he looked like, what do they call him, an ogre?
He's
giant.
giant.
Giant. He was weird. His house was more run down than the other neighbors. Weird things going on in there. And when you hear that, you're going, how do people not realize that they're living right next to a serial killer? And then I'm like, okay, have you ever had that kind of neighbor? Is there somebody that you've ever lived next to that, you know what, they really kind of added up all the things you would expect to find out of a serial killer?
I was thinking about that too. You're talking about, buried in the backyard. And a lot of the stuff I watch, there's bodies buried in a backyard. And it makes you think, how is there a body somewhere within my block that no one will ever find? Did they get away with murder? Maybe something happened in the 70s. Someone buried a body in a backyard.
Oh, look at this concrete patio you have.
Yes.
What's under it?
Which has happened before. Where
Totally.
They buried a body and they put a big block there and they don't figure it out for 20 years. Is that just something for the movies and these podcasts? How prevalent is that?
Yeah. It does kind of make you wonder because, Virginia, Massapequa Park. It's just... It's a nice little quiet neighborhood kind of community.
It's very nice. And just the fact that he had a rundown, crappy house. You don't see a whole bunch of that in Massapequa Park. Not at least the area that I was familiar with.
Right.
My grandmother's house was, in a very nice neighborhood.
If you know 100 people, do you think one of them murdered just by numbers alone?
There's, I'm sure, an FBI stat that would let you know that. But
because if that's the case... One of you motherfuckers are a murderer. I'm talking to you, chat room. I'm talking to you, Virginia.
I've never murdered.
I know you have. I'm saying.
Yet.
Well, what is the
Keep
number?
talking.
One out of blank have murdered somebody. What's the number on that?
There is a number, because I gave you the number the other day. They believe there's anywhere from 25 to 50 active serial killers currently working.
We got 250.
So the FBI has stats on everything.
We got 258 people watching in the chat room right now. Has somebody murdered in that chat room? And no one knows about it. It's just a secret they're living with.
I hope not. That's high. That's high. If one out of that,
1 out of 258? You think that's too high?
yeah.
Look at who was chatting and who just got mysteriously quiet.
You're right. It's without a 257.
Look who dropped out.
Yep.
I see you, Metal Beard Dan.
If you just left, we know you're a murderer.
Don't worry, you're safe. We're so bad at research. We won't figure out who you are.
All right, thanks for your emails. Always send them to us, mail at kvjshow.com. You guys have a good day. We'll talk to you later. Goodbye.